Hello, I am Bentham. Welcome back to Factorio Railworld. We've just been in the main base after returning home in quite a rush to deal with the aftermath of a biter attack. That's all mostly sorted now. There's a couple more little things that I want to finish off before we go. So we're over in outpost 1. There's a couple more mining drills to get rid of. Might as well just clear them away while I'm passing. And that deposit is really diminishing now. There's so much has been mined from it recently, just because things have really kicked in again. What with the Megatrain being a thing, we're not going to set off quite yet. I'm just going to check all of the cargo wagons. We're still quite short on the destroyer capsules, but everything else is done, including all of the engine-based stuff. Even that all managed to catch up and build up while I was gone. I need to do a quick bit of sorting out to make sure that the furnaces were loaded, and also there's a couple of level 3 assemblers missing, but we were asking for 100 of those anyway, so we're probably fine in that respect. I'll unload a couple of alien artifacts that we still have in one of the cargo wagons, and then I'm just going to clear my inventory up by sticking a couple of things into the loading chest for the Megatrain, and they can be used later on when we actually need them. Before we go, there's one last little thing we want to do here. We've got a bunch of trains sat around, and what we're going to do is we're going to build a station here. I'm just doing a quick scout out of the map, getting an idea of the situation. What I'm looking at is deposits and seeing what sort of large deposits of ore are nearby. And then what I do is I name this station Mega Copper 1. And then what I do is for each of these 3 trains, I tell them to go to a copper unloading station. So for example, Circuit Copper and Mega Copper 1. Of course, they can't actually go to Mega Copper 1 because it's not connected to the network. It's just a station sat next to the spare train area, but they'll go and park up in the unloading areas that currently aren't in use. So that's the 2 circuit copper stations, and then this one's going to go in the copper 1 station. At the moment we still have 1 train delivering to copper 2, and that's literally it for copper trains, which is why we sort of urgently need more copper. So with them all parked up, we are pretty much ready to go now. I'd like it if we had a few more destroyer capsules, but it's not really that important, though I decided that it's probably a good idea to have a secondary station along here, because there were a couple of times where I thought it would be good if I could just send one little train back, for example, to unload random stuff. So the moment we're setting up a way to deliver copper back home, but if there was anything else we wanted to deliver, we'd have to come back and set up the infrastructure on this end. So what I do is I grab a train from there and a couple of cargo wagons. They're just going to be for markers though, and then we're going to deconstruct them again. And we've made this station called Mini Train, and basically this is to send smaller trains back for my journey around the lake. So I start working out an unloading area. Basically it's going to be like the rear cargo wagon of the Megatrain, in that I can send it back with some stuff loaded into one of the wagons, and it can get unloaded. At first I choose the second wagon, but then I decide I'll just choose the first one, and then the one on the back can be optional, like if there's some stuff that I want to just stick in a cargo wagon and send home, even if it's not being unloaded. So that's all that done, and what we're going to do is we're going to deconstruct that track and that station there, and then there's a couple of bits of rails and stuff about that are in sort of weird numbers and things. But anyway, we'll set off now. I was just checking the map at like far north of the outpost because I spotted a couple of enemy bases, but they're out of range and irrelevant really. So we grab a bunch of rails from the Megatrain, and then we start clearing away some trees out here. I cut down the first couple before I remember that I have a shotgun, and I don't need to deal with that stuff. I can just destroy everything in my path. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it into a 2-track system. This is probably not going to extend all the way around the lake, but it's going to go a certain distance just so that we can have some sort of heavier traffic on the earlier sections, because of course there's going to be a lot of stuff out in the wilderness that we can make use of them and we can bring back on trains. One person suggested that we don't have a 2-way system at all, but we just have a passing point system, and that's actually a good idea. It's something I sort of haven't considered for like any of my recent ideas for train stuff, because I sort of disregarded it when I initially thought of it, because it works okay if there's only a small number of trains, but if it gets to a large number or the high traffic, it can really sort of limit the speed of things. But because of sort of the nature of this railway that we're building, there's probably only ever going to be the Megatrain and maybe 1 or 2 other trains running on sort of the furthest reaches of it, meaning that a passing point system would actually work fairly well as long as I set it up right. You do have to be careful about that sort of thing, and making sure that you don't end up with 2 trains just facing each other on the other side of some what do you call them? Of some signals. Anyway, there's a couple of bases around the place that we're going to destroy. They've got a little bit too close to the southern area of my. I say base. It's sort of just my sort of territory, really. Though the copper outpost, copper 2, well, 1 actually, it is copper 1. Is the southernmost outpost, and it is actually just empty now. It's just the branch of the line, and that's basically it. A place where the station, where a train can park. So it doesn't really matter that the biters have got that far, but I don't like them getting that close, really. And I guess it's a good sort of barrier. I think the south side of a lot of the stuff I built is unprotected. In fact, thinking about it, I don't think I have any turrets on like the smelting area, the main station, things like that. And I really should have done that because, as we saw, that like. Things are not as safe as I thought, and when I'm on the other side of the lake, it is very difficult to respond in any sort of rapid amount of time to any danger that occurs. But anyway, I'll just quickly sort out the stuff that I've gathered, a couple of bits of wood and some alien artifacts, and then let's go. Here we are on the train, setting off once again. Didn't think I'd be said like I would have. I was expecting to come back like, well, I guess about now, because by now I probably would have made it to the midpoint and started building something, but as it is. We're setting off on our second time, and we're going to add in our second line along the thing. This is sort of like a phase 2 sort of thing we're doing here, because my original plan was to just go around the lake once, put in the basic structure, and then I would go back and put in the two-way system and outpost and things like that. But I've decided that seeing as I've had to come back already, and I'm sort of in the right position to start the sort of phase 2, then I'll just do it now up to a certain point anyway. So there's a loop further back, just as a precaution in case any train might end up going the wrong way and ending up going down that section. They've got one last chance to turn around. That shouldn't happen anymore now, thanks to some improvements to the logic of the trains. But it's just in case some glitch happens or whatever, and a train decides to go the complete wrong way for some reason. I think there's still ways that a train can end up being diverted that far, but it's extremely unlikely. But anyway, we're only going to have that one loop in, and then we're just going to have the two tracks running alongside each other, because any train that's got to this point is going to want to travel a very long distance and won't need to turn around. So we're just going to machine gun all the trees out in a section, and then we'll go back over and place the section. And then usually I'll need a second pass just to clear away the mess, because unfortunately when you're trying to place tracks, it always does this thing where where it randomly places extra tracks on either side of what you're placing. It's really strange, and it seems to be practically impossible to stop. One thing that I did find while I was doing this is that it actually works better if you are off-center when you're placing your diagonal tracks, so that you sort of place them in twos. For some reason that seems to create less random side ones, and I have no idea sort of what the cause of that is, but it's something that I adopt more as it sort of proves itself as working. I don't understand it at all, but anyway, we've got this diagonal section already complete, and we're making good progress, and it's going to work quicker than the first time round did, of course, because already we've got a lot of the trees cleared, we've already got the path of the rails determined, and we've already got a lot of the biters dealt with, so we can quickly make our way back up to the point that we were at before, and continue from there, though we are going to be stopping off just a little bit before then to sort something out. But anyway, we've got this horizontal section to do, and I'm just running along the train as I go. I'm not using stations to sort of bring it along, because for each individual track section I end up passing the train at some point, so I might as well hop on board and drive it along myself. It makes more sense when I'm just doing the one straight line used to call the train along, but even then you have issues with missing bits of rail, at least on the diagonal sections. When it comes to the straight sections, it's super easy to sort out, because you can just place them all with no problem and no gaps and so on. Anyway, I'm just scouting ahead again, working out where we are. We've already made some very good progress towards the point where we were at before. We'd reached a point where we were actually going north, though there was going to come a time where we went inwards and then outwards again before we get to the end. And indeed, the midpoint that I've decided, I'm making a complete meal of this here, but it works out in the end, as long as I've got the basic line in. But yeah, like the area that I've sort of designated as the midpoint, as the sort of the sort of point to commemorate, is not actually the midpoint, I would say. I think it's a little bit before the midpoint. The area that I'm sort of defining is the point where I'm sort of nearest to the other side of the lake on the dip going in. and the top bit goes very all over the place, so it ends up being a longer trek that way. But anyway, we're running back and clearing out the bits of rail, and then we can bring the train along some more. We're going to go up to the place where we finished our first Megatrain journey episode, just here by this patch of water. This is where we stopped before, and we're going to carry on putting in the two-way system. We are almost up to the point where I want to stop it, at least for now, but I'm going to leave it in a potential to extend the two-way system further, unless we decide to just stick with a passing point system on from there. Anyway, we're grabbing some more rails. We're really burning through them. We've already gone through a good few stacks of rail that I had on my inventory anyway, and then another 10 stacks that are in the cargo wagon, so there's only 15 left in there, plus the stuff that I'm still holding. So we're really burning through it quickly, which is what happens when you have a two-way system, really, if you're going this sort of distance. And when I was sort of estimating how much I'd need, it was a very, very rough estimate in that I didn't really pay any attention at all, and just based it off the size of a cargo wagon. But I thought, yeah, this could get me anywhere between halfway and all the way around the lake on one track, which would equate to a quarter of the way or halfway around on a double track. But anyway, here we are at the point where we're going to have our two-way section stop. It's the giant copper outpost. We need to make use of this, basically. It's the only copper we have nearby, apart from that one remaining little copper outpost that we're burning through super quick back at base. Copper outpost 4, I think it is now. We've really gone through them quickly, thanks to just the voracious consumption of copper by the circuit system. Anyway, we're going to build an outpost here, so I need to work out sort of the positionings of the track, because right now I'm not completely happy with it, because it goes through the middle of the outpost. If we do have one straight line going through the middle of the outpost, we can still mine all of the copper because of the overlap of mining drills. But at the moment there's a corner in it, so I need to work out like how I'm going to deal with that. I could just bypass the outpost, well, the deposits, or completely, or I could change the shape of the track in it, or something along those lines. But anyway, we're going to start extending the track along, and what I decided is that I'm not going to take the two-way track into the copper outpost. By the way, I realise my terminology can be confusing sometimes, because I call it two-way track when it is two one-way tracks, whereas one track would be a two-way track, and I realise that it's really confusing, but it's sort of hardwired in my brain already, and I'm going to keep making that mistake, unfortunately. But yeah, we're sorting out sort of the transition between the two track types, and I realise it's a bit of a mess, really, and it could be made a lot more compact, because we're trying to fit this in an area here. The area that we fit it in has to be cordoned off and defended from biters, so we need to make sure we don't make it huge. So what I decided to do is just sort of integrate the two little sort of sections of the system that I've got going there and get them just a little bit more compressed up to make a little bit more room. I mean, I could take out the loop. I could have it on the other side of the copper deposit, but I've decided just to stick it here for now, and it's probably fairly temporary, and later on I can mess with it and continue the double the two-line system further along. Though really we want to get all of the copper around the line mined before then, just to make it sort of work properly. Anyway, what I'm doing here is trying to work out the positioning of the rails and how long things need to be for the train, but what I'm doing is using engines as markers instead of cargo wagons, and that's basically a silly idea, particularly when I'm trying to put in the inserters for loading. So we'll just go get some cargo wagons. I have the Megatrain handy, and it's full of them, and while I'm over here I'm going to make a modification to the system so that we have only a straight horizontal line going through the deposit itself, which is a big help for mining it. It looks a bit weird, and it's got a right angle in it, and I've been trying to avoid right angles as much as possible in this because they're weird and on-rail network-like, but again, temporary, so it's fine. And then we've grabbed a couple of cargo wagons. We can get some fuel in the train, get it to position itself correctly, and work out where to go. And it turns out that with the two engines instead of two cargo wagons, it seemed to be a square longer, which is strange, because I always thought that the engines and the cargo wagons were the exact same length to make it sort of make more sense, so you could have more modular engines, well, like train columns and things. But apparently, well, at least when you're attaching them end to end, they seem to be slightly longer, unless I mess it up in some way. But anyway, we've got all the inserters and stuff, all the boxes. I've crafted all these in my inventory just because I couldn't be bothered to walk back to the train and grab them, even though it is right there. But now we're going to go back and grab a couple of other things. There's all sorts of random materials we need to sort things out, so we'll just move it up to here and just have a look through, grab everything we might need. We've got some solar panels, some accumulators, various kinds of power poles, and then we can go put in a power system up in this north section here. It's because of the way I'm going to coordinate off, this area will be covered as well, so we might as well make use of the land to generate some power. Of course this outpost is going to need power, and piping it all the way in from the main base seems like a bit of a silly idea really, because like one power pole getting destroyed would deactivate the whole thing, and that's the sort of thing that you would expect to happen in a biter attack, which is what it's going to need some of its power for. I mean, it's obviously going to need some power. The mining drills, but the mining drills will generate pollution, the biters will be unhappy about that, and they'll come try and destroy it, so we'll need some turrets to help defend against that. But anyway, we're putting in all these solar panels. I have no idea how much I need, because I've never really paid attention to sort of the numbers of solar panels needed to power certain things. The way that I've always done it is to set up the system, look at the power graphs, see how it runs, and then add and take away as necessary. I mean, I could do that here, but at the moment I don't have any of the mining drills set up in the first place, so I'm just getting the power done now and seeing how it works out. It feels to me like I'm not putting in enough stuff at the moment, though. I don't know if that's really true. I mean, I've just put in 100 and I've grabbed another 50 to help add in even more, just because I feel like it's not enough, and then I've used it up that 50 as well, so there's 150 solar panels down there. It's weird, it looks like less than that to me, but apparently that's how much 150 solar panels is. Of course, once we've got that done, we need to put in the accumulators as well, so that things can run overnight. And what I decided to do is put in 2 squares for this. Again, don't know if it's needed, but I guess you can more easily justify overkill for accumulators because of sort of the nature of laser turrets. They all need to go at once, so you want a lot of power saved up in case that happens, particularly if it happens at night, because then if the power runs out, you're screwed, so the more you have in storage, the better. Anyway, we've got rid of that train now because we don't need it anymore, and then we're going to actually add in the mining drills. So we've grabbed, I think, the 50 that we have from the Megatrain. We're going to work along, and we're going to do all of the stuff on the right up against the track first, so we can try and get all that mined. Once we get this mined, it just becomes easier to deal with having rails running through here, because it fits in with the landscape, and so if I can, I'd like to keep the rails as they are now. And then we also put some more on this side. The reason being that if we double it up, we're going to have the track going through this particular area here. We want to make sure it's covered. I'm trying to work out nice spacings for it, and completely messed it up a couple of times, but I managed to sort of work out a nice way of arranging it. I mean, that's the only thing that I needed to sort of deconstruct and reconstruct for, was because I like it to look nice, and I also like it to have as even coverage of the deposit as possible. So then we're going to put in the efficiency modules, and I quickly realised that I probably didn't bring as many of these as I really need, because we've got 100 of them here, and we very rapidly run through all of them. In fact, maybe we have 150, because we have 51 mining drills down, and so we've used up 153 modules in them, so I had to actually craft the last 3 myself to make sure that they were all covered. I don't want to leave any producing the maximum pollution they're capable of. And of course now we're going to put in the substations, get all of them connected up to the grid, nice and simple, because it's very sort of evenly spaced system we've got going here because the deposit's so big. And now that we've got the copper actually being mined, we need to sort out the loading, so I need to decide on a loading setup here, and I have a couple of ideas, but they're all sort of limited by the situation we have with the bottom line. It's right up against the other side of the track, so it's difficult to actually position anything in it. I'm having a couple of different ideas about how, like, looping it round, and in the end I just decided to go for a really simple one that will bias the forward cargo wagon, but I don't really care, and I don't think it matters too much with my current rail system. I know that I do have issues in the main base where there are how do you say, where we have like the front cargo wagons are full of stuff and the rear cargo wagons are empty, so that sort of messes things up. But anyway, as soon as we've got this sorted out, we've got the belt going, we'll sort out efficiency later. What we're going to do is we're going to name the station to Mega Copper 1, and the trains will come forth, all 3 of them. and you can see them moving on the radar, at least some of them, when you can work out which one's which. And we'll see how they go, and hopefully this will sort of revitalise the main base, get things running quickly again, and when we get back we'll be able to fully load the Megatrain with everything, except maybe destroyer capsules, because that's never going to work. We're going to stick a couple of blue belts in, and we also need to sort out some signals. Unfortunately it doesn't work out too well because the mining drills are in the way, but we managed to position it eventually. And we're going to finish up there, and we're going to finish off the outpost next episode, and then continue on our journey. And so I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.